Trace, when all this is done, do you fancy, it's been a while, right?
Fuck me sideways, Trace thinks. Is Crater actually blushing? She can scarce believe her eyes. If she's honest, she can't deny the unmistakable thrill that Crater's suggestion elicits. He's right, it has been a goodly while. And by Foe's furry balls, with everything that's been going on of late, she has surely earned herself a little bit of fun. But in her line of work, honesty is a professional impediment at best, and a one-way ticket to the woodchipper at worst. And fun is in piss-poor supply. Anyway, she'll be buggered if she's going to make life easy for the big dumb ape. It's good to watch him squirm a bit. How do you fancy getting your mind from out of your pants and onto the damn mission? She snaps. In case you've forgotten, we've got ourselves a mark to grease. Despite the sharpness of the retort, she can't entirely prevent the shadow of a smile that flits across her lips, and she turns away to prevent a Crater from catching it. Memories of post-mission celebrations past rise unbidden, and with them, feelings she hasn't felt in quite some time. Where the hell is he going? She asks, trying to get the conversation, not to mention her own unruly thoughts, back on track. Of all the districts in the city, why would an unseen agent, disguised as Fleet Admiral Koenig no less, come to this shithole? It doesn't take them long to find out. When the Admiral's carriage draws to a halt, his destination is all too familiar to the pair tailing him. He has come to the ruins of their old home, the Opera House. Hello and welcome to The Lone Adventurer, an actual play solo RPG podcast with me, Carl White. I will be your narrator, your game master, and your guide, as we follow our heroes on their journey into the unknown. For this game, I will be using the Lone Adventurer RPG rule set, as well as a variety of other systems, tools, and tables as they take my fancy. A word of warning, the following scenes may contain mature themes and disturbing imagery. Listener discretion is advised. The adventure continues. Last time on The Lone Adventurer, Valerian and Sallow's attempts to bury Lord Fargallay in the demolished ruins of his palace were thwarted when their target left the building. Instead, they were forced to tail him and his entourage through the city streets, resulting in a tangle with his guards and a very unwelcome discovery. Inquisitor Fonseca was alive and kicking. Here's a question. Is it still shipping if the characters you ship are your own characters? I had no idea at all before this chapter that there was any hint of romantic history between Crater and Trace, and yet here it is. How did this come about? Well, before diving in and checking to see if the first scene started as expected, I began this play session with a couple of background questions to help me set the scene. The first thing that I wanted to know was whether my second strike team, Crater and Trace, had been able to track down their quarry. Now, I could have dealt with this in play, but I had the sense that that would be the least fun part of the story. What mattered in this instance was what my party did with the consequences of their investigation, not the investigation itself. And so I asked, getting a yes and. The Deep Oracle had something to say about that. The Five of Swords reversed brought up themes of resolution, reconciliation, and resentment, while the second card, the Lovers, spoke very clearly to me of a relationship. Now, normally, I tend to have Oracle results related to the external world, the one controlled by the GM role, rather than impacting the inner lives of my PCs. that area is more the purview of my player persona than my GM one, after all. But this opportunity seemed too good to pass up. You see, when I went back and revisited the last Crater and Trace team-up, all the way back in Season 2, Chapter 13, and considered it in light of this suggested relationship, their exchanges took on a whole new layer of meaning when viewed through the lens of estranged lovers. Next up, I wanted to find out where their quarry had led them. Now, my deep oracle is very, very useful for revealing matters related to the psychological. It is, after all, based on the tarot, which is a system intended for exploring the inner world. In fact, when expressed through the medium of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, it can be said to represent a complete map of our experiential universe, a depiction of every possible state of human awareness. As a result, the prompts it throws up are often very easy to associate with emotional or cognitive states that exist either within the story or within the storyteller. But what it is less good at least in my experience, is the more prosaic tasks, determining places, for example. Now, that may be more a fault of the workman than the tool. Perhaps it is my skill with interpretation of the oracle that needs improvement. After all, what are places but geographical expressions of attached importance? Seen this way, the place loses intrinsic existence and manifests solely in the emotional and cognitive world of the observer. In this humanistic geography, they become focal points of memories or emotions, and as such are simply expressed in terms of the great oracle output. But that seems to require quite a bit of heavy lifting on my part, and, let's face it, I'm nothing if not a consummate idler. If there is a hard path and an easy path, make mine mellow. And so, for this question, I turned to an oracle I'd spotted when playing the solo game Kalarath. This brutal little solo game, set in a Conan-esque world of swords and sorcery in a desert setting, has a number of very easy-to-use tools, and the People, Places and Things oracle is a perfect example. A couple of quick rolls on that table gave me Abandoned and Crumbling, and the mental leap from there to the destroyed opera house was more of a short mental hop. Of course, these answers leave us with more questions, not the least of which being, what are the unseen doing at the site of the web's greatest defeat?
Bugger me, Craig thinks. Is Trace actually blushing?
He's not sure what he'd expected by asking the question. Hell, he hadn't even known he was going to ask the question until he asked it. But he sure as shit hadn't expected Trace to go all mushy on him, mean girl act notwithstanding. He'd seen the smile, plain as day. She must be more rattled than he realized. It's good to know that ship hasn't sailed. If he's honest with himself, he's spent far too long, sunk far too deep into the dream dust. Though, in his experience, being honest with yourself is painful at best and terminal at worst. Why pick at the scab when you know there's nothing underneath but maggots? She's right, though. Game face on, and time for mischief later, if they live that long. For now, they have a skin shifter to whack. The question is, can they get close enough for Trace to drop him with the bow before they're spotted? He follows her, crouching low as they slip through the rubble, doing his level best to focus on their target rather than on Trace's ass. He starts like a guilty schoolboy when she suddenly turns, but he's pretty sure she didn't notice. "I want you between me and those 4 guards back at the carriage," Trace signals. "I'm going to circle around the fallen roof and come at him from the opposite side of the excavation site." Crater nods and moves off, grateful for the opportunity to do his thing without distraction. A fleeting thought crosses his mind. Maybe, he wonders, it's him who's more rattled than he realized. He squashes the thought like a bug and sets to his work. Trace rolls her eyes. For the love of the seven, really? Ogling her rear end at a time like this? The big oaf jumped like a jackrabbit when she turned round and caught him staring. Best for both of them that they'd split up. Because she can't deny she has let herself get just as distracted as he has. Focus, woman. Placing each foot with painstaking care, she draws an arrow from her quiver and sets it to the string. She moves with the assuredness of an expert hunter, her breathing calm and measured. Nothing now except her target and the kill. She peers around a fallen column and spies her quarry, his back to her atop a mound of excavated rubble. 65 feet. Clear shot. Cakewalk. With a smooth, steady motion, she draws the arrow back, the black fletching lightly brushing her cheek with the merest faintest creak of tension from the bow. And pauses as she catches his voice and sudden laugh, carried to her by the light breeze blowing through the opera house ruins. Is he talking to himself? Or is there someone else there with him? What's he saying? She has her mission. She has the shot, and her duty is clear. And yet they know so little of the unseen's plans. What secrets might she learn? Silently, she lowers the bow and creeps closer. With the opera house established as the setting for this scene, I asked the oracle whether things would kick off as expected. Indeed they would, the simple oracle responded, and, what was more, there was going to be a juicy added bonus. What sort of bonus, I asked? And my deep oracle draw of the 9 of Cups and the moon revealed that our unseen friend was busy spouting off and revealing all manner of spicy insider secrets. I had planned to dive directly into those secrets, but as I set to writing the scene, my characters kind of got away from me and almost started writing themselves. They demanded, in no uncertain terms, some space to breathe, and it seemed churlish to prevent them. And so now we have a little more insight into the somewhat dysfunctional, but in my opinion, really rather sweet relationship between Crater and Trace. This sort of exploration, for me, lies at the heart of role-playing games. Discovering new layers of your character and seeing how their drives, limitations, and behavioral patterns interact in interesting, unexpected ways with other characters and with the wider world are arguably far more interesting, subtle, and complex than the unpredictability provided by the turn of a card or the roll of a die. Not to say that these things don't hold interest too. It can be fun to discover how conflict resolution turns out, but more interesting still is to learn surprising things about the character you are playing. To create new depth and open up the possibility of character change and growth lies at the very center of what we humans respond to in storytelling. And while this opportunity for character development is absolutely present in group tabletop games, I find the solo RPG offers a unique experience. Without the pressure of other players wanting their share of the spotlight or wanting to get on with the game, we are given the time and the space to ponder at greater length what is really going on for our characters, what matters most to them, and most importantly, who they really are. In this case, it would appear that both Crater and Trace are far hornier than I had appreciated, and also terrible at expressing their feelings to one another. I wonder what impact, if any, those discoveries will have. So, with that brief roleplay foray complete, we are back to the mission at hand. Rather than take the kill shot, Trace has taken a gamble instead. Will that pay off for her? Let's find out.
Who's laughing now, you bunch of smug fucks?
The crude language seems wildly incongruous, coming as it does from the mouth of a venerable, distinguished, and quite magnificently mustachioed Fleet Admiral Gabriel Koenig, a more stalwart and upstanding representative of the Kairos Dominion you couldn't hope to find. though that image is somewhat undermined when he hawks a large gob of phlegm and spits it into the open grave at his feet.
I had to make sure you were gone. Had to see it for myself, and here you are. Good to see you folks.
3 crushed and broken forms lie in the freshly dug hole in the rubble. Despite the thick layer of dust and debris, it is plain to see that they are unseen. The Admiral barks a short, contemptuous laugh.
Kick me out, would you? Drop the shitty assignments on me while you swan about in high society? Not so high and mighty now, are you? I just wish Katari and Wade were lying in that damned hole with you. They got theirs, though. One drowned and the other beaten to a pulp.
As vengeful rage rises in the Admiral's voice, his face begins to blur, slipping rapidly between one set of features and another. Many of them are unknown to the watching Trace, but there is one she instantly recognizes. The youthful street entertainer she'd seen arguing with Katari at the warehouse on the docks. What was his name? Dex, wasn't it?
Which leaves me, your dog's body, your whipping boy, at the top of the pile. It will be me who takes the plaudits for the subjugation of the Dominion. Me who orders the Armada to unleash hell on the League. When the entire chained world falls under unseen control, do you know who will be the hero of our revolution? The heir apparent of our syndicate? Me! Me, while you lie rotting in unmarked graves.
All control has gone now, the unseen agent's true form revealed as he rants at his former colleagues. He spits again with all the venom he can muster. Trace, her back pressed to a heavy block of fallen stone, has heard enough. Time to flush this watery shit, once and for all. She readies her bow, then steps out from behind the fallen masonry, just in time to see the unseen drop a canister into the hole. It flares in an instant into blazing white light. Caught totally unaware, the light sears into Trace's retinas, blinding her momentarily. She can hear the furious sizzling, though, and smell the stench of burning unseen flesh. She has the presence of mind to duck back behind cover, blinking and wiping the tears away, but by the time her vision clears sufficiently to peer back out, her target is gone. I'd enjoyed switching over to Satara's point of view back in Chapter 4 of this season, and so I figured it would be fun to learn a bit more about the unseen, courtesy of Dex. And so I envisaged the scene as the unseen rants, and I rolled my scene check roll. The scene, I was told, would begin as expected, but with an added bonus. I figured that meant he'd be loose-lipped with unseen secrets within Trace's earshot as he gloated over the bodies of his erstwhile allies. As to who these allies were, I already knew that Katari had drowned in the warehouse flood, and that Wade had recently been beaten to death at the House of Whispers, which meant that these unseen in the excavated hole must be previously unintroduced ones, the ones who accompanied Wade when he took on the web at the Battle of the Opera House at the end of Series 2. I asked the Deep Oracle for some guidance on the nature of the secrets that Dex might reveal, and got the prompts wisdom, expertise, authority, delays, defeatism, and naivety. That didn't really give me anything specific, so I let those words percolate a bit, and then had them feed into a stream of consciousness rant, filled with recrimination, power struggles, and a bit of an inferiority complex. Poor old Dex is a bit of a mess, I'm afraid. That toxic soup of personality traits came in part from the oceanic profile that I'd whipped up for him. Openness 3, conscientiousness 1, extroversion 4, agreeableness 2, neuroticism 2, interpersonal disposition 2, and core disposition 1. He's sloppy and undisciplined, and surprisingly vocal for someone whose entire role is predicated on subtlety and subterfuge, hence this rant, the loss of physical control and quite possibly his original place in the pecking order. As we've seen, he has a world-sized chip on his shoulder. Everyone is out to get him, and all his problems are caused by other people. What an absolute peach Dex is. Next, I had Trace make a roll to move safely into earshot, whilst still having the opportunity to take that kill shot. I rolled with Scoundrel and got a 9, which was a partial success. It was going to be one or the other, it would seem. To help clarify what the consequences of her partial success was, I rolled a random GM soft move and got to change the environment. I toyed with a few options, but the phosphor grenade made the most thematic sense to me. Dex might well be an insecure loudmouth, but he didn't want to have a load of unseen bodies lying about for people to start asking awkward questions about. He was here to cover his cell's tracks as much as to have a nice cathartic tirade. And so Trace gets to hear his diatribe, but with that environmental change, she is prevented from landing the killing shot. Can she recover? Has she blown it? Well, there's only one way to find out. I tell you, it's no laughing matter. I joined the Navy to see the world, meet interesting people and kill 'em, not trail around after some pompous tit covered in chest candy with a stick up his arse. It is plain from the expressions on his companions' faces, which range from resigned to exasperated, that this theme is a well-worn one. Oblivious, the guard ploughs on. And what the bloody hell's this all about, anyway? Rooting about in rubbish tips in the dead of night, leaving us over here while the city's rammed full of revolutionaries and terrorists and Droom knows what. What's he up to? It's weird, I tell you. And it's not just tonight, neither. There's something off about the old man. You mark my words. One of the other guards has clearly had enough. Kravitz, for the love of the seven, will you please shut the fuck up? If not for our sakes, then at least for your own. You keep running your mouth off like this and you're going to wind up with your head on a pike, and ours alongside you like it's not. What the Admiral of the fucking fleet does in the dead of night is his own sweet private business, so just shut your mouth and think of payday. Kravitz is evidently not in the mood for silent contemplation, returning to his theme with even greater gusto. That's what I mean. What's the Admiral of our whole fucking fleet doing poking around in a dump like this? It don't make no sense. But Crater has heard enough. These men are tired, twitchy and distracted. If he needs to take them down, he reckons he probably can. In a straight-up fight against 4 well-armed and armoured Navy lads, he'd likely be in trouble. But he has no intention of doing anything straight up. Surprise can be a powerful ally. But he is hoping he won't have to. With luck, Trace will land a nice clean kill, and the two of them will be in the wind before these jackasses have time to... You men, ready the carriage! We're heading back to HQ! Hop to it! Crater is caught flat-footed as Admiral Koenig appears from behind a collapsed gallery, striding purposely towards his men through what remains of the foyer. Any moment now, he is going to be spotted. What happened? Where the hell is Trace? Kravitz shows no such hesitation. Right you are, sir, he barks, snapping to attention and firing off a crisp salute to the approaching dignitary. Look lively, lads. This way, sir. Mind that puddle. Two things happen at once. Fleet Admiral Koenig's approach brings him into direct line of sight with Crater. And in the same instant, Trace, who has been scrambling to catch up with her quarry, rounds the corner directly behind the Admiral and straight into the view of his guards. Crater and the Admiral freeze as they lock eyes. The guards and Trace do likewise, the entire tableau suspended in amber for what seems like an eternal moment. And then, with fated inevitability, all hell breaks loose. You should know me well enough by now to predict that I was never going to resolve Trace's narrative tension immediately, not when we could build some suspense instead, both for you and for me, by switching our viewpoint over to Crater. Or rather, to the subjects of his surveillance. Or rather, to the subjects of his surveillance. I imagined this scene beginning with Crater spying on the guards, and sure enough, my oracle was in accord, along with an added bonus. This bonus, I decided, was that the guards were within earshot, which gave me the opportunity to mirror the start of the previous scene by having them doing the talking. And as to what they were discussing, Well, the Wheel of Fortune reversed spoke of destiny, bad luck, and a turning point, while the Five of Swords reversed gave me resolution, reconciliation, and resentment. Cherry-picking the parts that spoke to me, I decided that one of the guards was bitching about his lot, and a quick check with the simple oracle confirmed that there were concerns about their boss's recent actions. Further oracle rolls and card draws revealed that Dex returned before Trace could catch up with him, and that he wanted to return home, and that Kravitz was now all smiles, and that Crater was spotted by Dex, and that Trace arrived just in time to get spotted by the guards. What a perfect place to leave things. Before we finish with the loan of your ears, however, I would like to take just a moment to pull back the curtain on titles. To date, there have been 69 episodes of this podcast, not counting bonus episodes, and for each one, the very last thing that I do is try to come up with a suitable title. A lot of the time, I spend almost as long trying to come up with something half decent as I do writing. Well, okay, that's an exaggeration, but it's not a huge one. Finding a good title, one that reflects the episode's themes and that serves as a useful content reminder for me when I look back later, is no easy feat. Sometimes I chicken out and use something pretty generic. Snatch, Pursuit, Sideways in this season were all the results of not finding anything better. But if I'm honest, there is nothing I like quite so much as a good, pretentious literary quote. I've probably picked up this habit from watching far too much Star Trek. Titles like All Our Yesterdays, Dagger of the Mind, By Any Other Name, Past Prologue, and Whom Gods Destroy are all great examples of Star Trek episodes with titles that carry literary portent. And we've had several lone adventurer titles that steal that approach. Season 2 offered From Hell's Heart from Moby Dick, The Fire in Which We Burn from Delmore Schwartz, both of those being Trek references, along with Night's Black Agents and To Point to the Tempest, both from Shakespeare. You get the idea. In Season 3 we had A Handful of Dust from the line in T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. Song titles get a look in too. In Season 3 we had Scary Monsters, and in this season there was Asleep at the Wheel, which I took from a cracking tune by Suicidal Tendencies. This episode's title, To Thine Own Self, is both the title of a Next Generation episode and a line from Hamlet. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. In the context of this episode, we see the consequences of failing to heed that advice. It refers to the lies we tell ourselves and the truths we cannot face. That is as true for Crater and Trace as it is for Dex and for Kravitz. Will any of them come to realize the error of their ways? Perhaps we'll find out next time. You have been listening to The Lone Adventurer, a solo RPG podcast played, written and performed by me, Carl White. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider telling your friends about it or leaving a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. It really is a huge help. You can follow me on BlueSky at theloneadventurer.bsky.social. Email me at theloneadv@gmail.com or follow my blog at carlillustration.wordpress.com. You can find show notes for this episode and all others at theloneadventurer.podbean.com, where I include any links mentioned in the episode, as well as mechanics information. I also include a link to a full episode transcript. The story will continue in the next episode of The Lone Adventurer. Thank you for listening.